All right, everybody, let's go ahead and get started. So once again, my name is Kevin Hancock, Director of Solutions here at Exostar, and thanks for joining me today for how supplier and customer changes impact your bottom line and what to do about it. Before I dive into the formal presentation, just want to cover a few housekeeping details. Today's session is scheduled to last for 30 minutes. That does include Q&A. You'll be muted during today's presentation. However, you can submit questions via the chat. I also did get one question submitted prior, so I've got that on the final slide, and I'll just cover that quickly. I'll then take a look at the chat to see if anybody submitted any questions, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up. If for some reason we do have an outage today, just wait for a minute and try to reconnect. Either just refresh your screen, or you can use the link in the email that you received to today's webinar and come back into today's session. If at any time you'd like to speak with one of our supply chain experts, or if you have additional questions, you can reach out to us a couple of different ways. You can email us supplychain, all one word, at exostar.com, or you can come to our website, www.exostar.com. There's a form there on every page to ask questions that'll come to people who can answer those. There's also a chat feature on the website as well. If one of your questions is, will I get the slides from today's presentation? The answer is yes, you will. As a follow-up to today's session, you'll receive a PDF version of today's slide deck, as well as a link to a recording of today's session. So with that, let's go ahead and dive in. So what we're going to talk about today is how to improve your overall supply chain, how to connect together the suppliers and buyers, how to increase satisfaction across those organizations and improve collaboration, and take down that risk of supply chain disruption. Now, in the aerospace and defense industry, there are quite a few unique challenges. There is often the case of how do I onboard suppliers into my network so I can work with them? Because of the various compliance regulations, how do I ensure that there's secure connections to those applications that I need them to have access to are secure? But on the other side of that, from the supplier side, how do I get them updates quickly and easily, understand their cybersecurity compliance, and how do I give them feedback on how things are going? What we're going to try and do is reduce that overall risk on both sides. And Exostar has a number of solutions in there. And today, what I'm going to talk about is one particular solution that Exostar delivers called DemandLine, which allows you to automate that process of pulling your demand from the various buyers that you have out there and bring that in directly into your ERP system, so you don't or reduce the number of manual processes, reduce the number of mistakes and issues that might occur, and get notified in near real time of changes into your demand. Now, what this solution does is it seeks to automate the process that many of you may be facing today, where you're going out to the various supplier portals out there, right? You might be going to Boeing supply chain portal, GE Aerospace, Huntington Ingalls, Blue Origin, etc., pulling down the demand from those. And it is a manual process where you go to the portal, you look up your purchase orders, you give feedback on those manually, you then turn around into your own ERP system and update those values, those due dates, generate your ASNs, etc. What we want to try and do is automate this process, allow you to connect to those different supply chain portals, pull that information directly, understand what changes have occurred, and have that feed directly into your ERP system. Now, what this will do, it'll help you with your various inventory management issues, hopefully reducing the stockouts, hopefully allowing you to reduce your costs because you're not trying to generate demand, if you will, at the last minute, or create those parts at the last minute to satisfy something that, if you will, the organizations you're working with changed underneath you because you may have not been notified for a week or so since the last person went in and updated the supply chain portal. Allow you to ensure that you're shipping things on time, allowing your buyers and your salespeople to be able to focus on increasing value to the organization rather than just doing the manual processes of downloading demand, updating spreadsheets, understanding what's going on, elevating that manually to various people, hopefully not making mistakes as they transpose numbers, etc. And overall, improving that customer satisfaction, ensuring that your supplier scorecard is as good as it can get, and allow you not to have put a strain on those supplier relationships. So this is all about increasing the accuracy of the demand that you're seeing, being able to see that in near real time and get that feedback as quickly and easily as possible to you and to those organizations that you work with. The reason that Exostar can do this is we've been doing this for about 25 years now. Exostar was started as a shared services organization across many of the large primes in the aerospace and defense industry. We have or manage those supply chain portals on behalf of the largest primes out there. Many of you use Exostar today to gain access to those supply chain portals. You're coming to Exostar to get your credentials to get into those. You can use those same credentials across multiple supply chain portals that you need to access. You may be providing these various primes your overall status on your cybersecurity, your CMMC level, your ability to work with NIST 800-171 and things like that. So that Exostar network has been built up over those 25 years. And today you see about over 50,000 organizations in there. All of those organizations have been vetted to a certain degree. All of you that are already part of the network have been vetted that you're not a member of I can't think of the term, I'm sorry, the organization itself has been vetted. The users from that organization have been credentialed, and oftentimes you've been proofed. You've then been given access to the supply chain portals or other applications that you need. A number of you may use us today to also meet various CMMC requirements because Exostar has solutions in that area as well. The supply chain portals you're working with today, and many of you are accessing those manually, can also be accessed programmatically using an Exostar application called DemandLine. This will directly connect you into those supply chain portals and pull that information down and integrate it directly into your ERP system. The way this works is if you will, that demand collaboration piece that's part of the Exostar platform. This is an application, as I mentioned, called DemandLine, which is either installed on your premise or in the Exostar cloud. That DemandLine application is front-ended by Exostar Secure Access module, so that you can utilize those same credentials, that same delegated administration model to provide individuals from your side access. However, more importantly, it also provides you access to those different supply chain portals that Exostar either hosts or front ends as part of its overall service to the aerospace and defense market. Because you've automated that pull down of information, this is going to happen on a daily basis. And I'll show you how this all looks from screenshots from the application itself and show you how it walks you through those and gives you that information. And it'll show you that information that's going to be fed back directly back into that ERP system that you may have. Exostar has a number of integrations to ERP systems right out of the box. So this is a fairly quick and easy deployment model. What this allows you, as I mentioned before, is transact that information automatically across the Exostar network. So DemandLine is installed again, either on your premise or in the Exostar cloud. You're gonna tell it when you want it to go to the different supply chain portals and pull that information down. This can be on a daily basis, weekly basis, whatever you think you can consume to get that information down to you. Once you do that, it's going to pull that information based on that schedule. It's going to update the purchase orders, the individual parts, etc., on a daily basis that with the demand that particular supply or buyer organization wants from you. Because it's doing this download on a daily basis, that then allows you to compare information across time. So it'll let you know when things are not, or when things have changed. It allows you to see those changes across time. It'll give you warnings if things have started to show up outside of your lead time that you provide contractually to these organizations. It'll also show you the different variance that's occurred over time and allow you to actually drill down to say, okay, well, this change is costing me this much money. Because of our contractual obligations, this was a firm order. You've either added or subtracted demand from this. I may be able to satisfy you if you've added demand in, but what's going to happen if you've pulled demand out of this particular order? And do I have recourse? And can I show you when and where this happened? So let's kind of show you how that flow occurs. So what you first do is you go into the DemandLine application. You'll see a list of the various supply chain portals that are available. What you see here is just a sample. There are about 15, I believe, suppliers that are attached to the Exostar network that we have integrations into, and that we're pulling this information into and across the Exostar network. So you choose the ones you want to do, and as Exostar builds this out, additional portals will be made available to you. You determine that schedule of when you want these demands to be pulled down. Is this a daily basis? Is this out? Do I want it once a day? Do I want it every 10 minutes? So really it depends on how you want to choose to bring in this demand to your organization. What it's then going to do is download that information based on that schedule. So what you see here is we've gone in and we've updated the orders that have occurred in this particular day. So these are all the orders that you see here on the left. If you click into an order, it shows you all the items that are currently there, what's been ordered, what's remaining, what's in transit, etc. Now, this is hopefully the information you're doing today on a manual process where you're going into those supply chain portals, getting this information, maybe on a daily basis, mainly on a weekly basis, and you're either pulling this down as an Excel spreadsheet or you're entering into a spreadsheet and then possibly swivel seating and moving it into your ERP system. What you see here is what you see in the DemandLine application. And if we've got this integrated into your ERP system, these things will go directly into that system as well. It'll then allow you to choose time frames if you want to determine if I want to see changes over time to, across my system. So what I ran here was I chose a time range. I think I chose 7 days. So let me know in the last 7 days how much demand has changed. That then showed me these two parts, right? You can either do it, I can show all parts, or I can filter it down and just show changed parts. Whoops. So in that time, these two parts showed changes. And it then shows me, based on the number of days, during this time frame, these are the POs and the order amounts that have changed within those. And it's going to show me this for this part that's part of each of these individual orders. And I see whether or not demand was pushed out or pulled in. And again, it's going to show me this within the last 45 days. Now, this will allow me to see what changes have occurred, and I then can, either create new orders, change orders, etc., or I can flag this, determine what I need to do about it, whether I need to put acknowledge dates on it, give new promise dates, etc. Now, you can also do that programmatically, and that I can't show you that right here because that's actually something you would typically do in your own ERP and send across, or you can stop it here, do your changes, etc. Now, what that also allows us to do is see, okay, so what demand has changed over time, and because we have a lead time for a particular part, what changes have occurred that impact that. So what this has done is showed me my schedule analysis to say, okay, for this particular part with a lead time of 26 days, they changed the quantity minus the change was 3, the delta was 3. It went from 13 to 10, and it was outside the lead time that we've contractually agreed to. What I can then do is take a look at the detail of that click this little print button, and I can also see this in a monetary view as well. So this is that same kind of screen with the change in demand over time, that variance, if you will, and the actual monetary impact of these changes to my business. So then I can, again, push that little print button, and I can actually show this out, if I then bring this to the, to the attention of my buyer from the organization I'm working with. And I say, hey, you've changed these quantities. This is the agreement we had. This is when you wanted it. This was the quantity before. This is the quantity after. This is the change, and this is the value of that change. So can we now talk about some kind of credit? Can we talk about a firm date when I can actually get these parts to you? How, this is impacting my business. We have agreements in place. What can we do to adjust and fix this impact? And it shows you that you're going to have that history over time, so you can go back and tell that buyer exactly what occurred. And oftentimes they're not aware of this, right? This is their ERP system pushing changes to the demand schedule, pushing changes directly to you. Oftentimes with, if you will, underneath the buyer, them not knowing these things as they occur, you've now got that information on a daily basis, so you can see these changes as they occur. Or if you look back over time, you can see these changes and make sure you can account for those. So this ability to, automate this demand across your supply chain Allows you to understand these different fluctuations on your overall demand schedule, see where it impacts your order to cash process, understand what it has to do with your work in progress, how that affects your overall system and each of your independent lines and things like that, to see what you need to do as quickly as possible to address those changes. So Debbie works for a company called Millet Industries, which is a user of DemandLine today. This has allowed them to automate that overall process. They're a large supplier to GE Aerospace. They use DemandLine to pull that information directly from GE Aerospace into their ERP system. It took over those manual processes, allowing them now to focus on the production itself, understanding how they can improve that more greatly impacts their bottom line. Now, Exostar does this also on the buyer side as well, right? Exostar provides a number of supply chain portals. So if you're a larger organization with a number of suppliers and you see how the GE Aerospace's, Boeing, et cetera, of the world work, and you also want to consider a supply chain portal established for your organization, connecting you to your suppliers, having them let you know directly in your portal changes, promise dates, ASNs, etc. Allow you to automate that process back to your ERP as well. Exostar's supply line solution does that for you. It brings you into the Exostar network, and you can then work, if you will, in both directions, providing information to your suppliers about the demand you have on them and pulling that demand directly from the organizations that you're supplying parts to get that information directly into your ERP. All of this is done in a secure and compliant manner. All of those organizations that are part of the Exostar network are vetted. They've been vetted against those denied parties list. That's the term I was looking for before. That is one of the checks. You can also do additional checks on those organizations. You can send them information requesting their reps and certs on other things like their cybersecurity risk. Gather the additional information you need from them to onboard them. All of that can be facilitated across the Exostar platform. Because many of these organizations are already part of it, you may have access to that information. That they've already been vetted. Once they let you know that they're going to release that information to you, then that information is populated back over to you as well. So along with these supply chain solutions, Exostar offers a number of other solutions as well. If you're looking to help satisfy your CMMC compliance requirements, we have a number of solutions around that area. Exostar's overall solutions are compliant with NIST 800-171 and fit into that CMMC requirement as well. If you need to better collaborate with your supply chain, Exostar has solutions that allows you to do document collaboration, both in an ad hoc as well as a structured manner, to push information to your suppliers, to collaborate with them around documents, designs, etc., in a secure space up in GCC High, built on top of a Teams environment. So really, no matter where you are or what your needs are across that supply chain, Exostar may have a solution that helps you do business better. So as I look to wrap up here, I told you I did get one question in. Now, to what extent are the big suppliers focusing on working with the small suppliers to infuse or augment the industrial base? I wish I had a better answer than it really depends. Um, the right now, much of the focus is around CMMC compliance and ensuring that supply chains across the aerospace and defense aren't disrupted by this requirement. Now, it's not really a new requirement, right? The requirement to be compliant with NIST 800-171 has been in place for a number of years. But with the change to now require a third party assessment, people are now adjusting to that new reality, and the other organizations in the supply chain are now starting to understand that they need to ensure compliance with that as well with their supply chain. Make sure they know where their supply chain stands in their compliance journey. So much of the focus currently is around there. Organizations are starting to reach out to their suppliers and gather that information. Sometimes they're willing to help those suppliers as well. You really, though, do have to kind of check with each of the different suppliers you're working with out there, because oftentimes it will depend on your criticality to their supply chain, your uniqueness, and your ability to deliver on those things. So again, it's not an easy answer just to say yes or no, but it is going to depend on a number of different things. So that concludes my formal portion of today. Let me just check to see if anything's come over chat while I've talked. No, I don't see any questions. So I want to thank everybody for your time and attendance today. Thanks for joining me, and have a great rest of the week. Take care.